Deshaun about the missed throws and everything. He kind of went back to his mechanics, his fundamentals. He mentioned shoulder plane, he just kind of broad question. But what specifically was it? What did you see just with his mechanics?
Not to get over analytical on mechanics, but just saw some rust there. That's very natural, very expected. As hard as you work, no matter what you do, to try to simulate game reps is really impossible. So, just little things from, shortening the drop a little bit, not getting as deep in the pocket, keeping your feet under you in balance, things like that we've worked on this week.
Like, oh, well, practice he looks great, or that it's just the carrying into the game is a lot different, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And the more reps he takes, the more live reps he takes in practice, the more game reps he has. Obviously, the rust will come off. Expecting to see improvement each week.
Like following up on that, I mean, his footwork, I guess, I know you're a stickler for that kind of thing. Did you notice anything like overstriding or anything? Was that contributing to those lower thrown balls on some of those passes?
Yeah, again, there was a lot on his plate going into that game, both on the field and off. So, now that we got that one under the belt, expect to see strides each week. There were definitely some things that we've addressed, and he's worked really hard to improve those this week.
Was that just a matter of getting some live game reps, that it's not something you can really replicate unless that speed and that threat of getting hit is right in front of you?
Yeah, it's its own animal, and I think he'll be more comfortable each week.
What gives you the confidence that in this short, compressed time frame that he can make dramatic strides in just 1 week?
Because we've seen it in prior. His past history would say that he's a lot of those things that you didn't see. He is those things, and those will come back as we get more reps, more game experience with him. Again, it was what we expected. Some rust there, and that's real. And again, just the work he's put in this week to improve those areas has already shown up.
And do you think that so much of the the return to Houston, he just admitted to us that it was very obviously emotional. With all of that behind him, do you think that could make a huge difference for this game?
I think so. I think that's a little bit of weight lifted off his shoulders and be able to go into a different town now as a starter in your second start. And
I'm sorry, is there any concern that you guys are asking too much of a guy to come back after not playing in 2 years and then be able to go out in week 12 and perform at an elite level in a playoff push?
I don't think that's anything we've ever expected from him. Quite honestly, I know there's expectations, but those are not ours. We understood that there was going to be some growing pains in through it. Coming back from not playing for that long, it's natural, and expected.
So, I mean, you kind of talked about it, but last week you said you expected rust. So did you expect kind of as much rust maybe as we saw?
I wasn't really sure of the level of rust, and that's, he got better as the game went on. He really made some good plays. He did some great things with his legs, avoided pressure, threw some really nice balls at times, and then other times it didn't come out of his hand the way he wanted to. So you see what it looks like when it's all pretty and it looks right. And I think that's what we'll start to see more of moving forward.
Did you think he saw the field and moved as quickly as he normally would, or is that something that is going to take a little bit of time as well?
I think he saw the field well. I think he understood what he was facing, what he saw, the coverages they gave him. I don't think that was an issue at all.
Alex, just after one game, did you see plays that you think would work for him and maybe take others out, or anything at all like that?
We did expand our playbook a little bit with some of the, giving him the ability to run with the ball as well in our run game. Things like that we've added in. Just personal preference on things you would take out. Like there might be certain concepts he's not as comfortable with that maybe Jacoby had comfort levels with that we ran a lot earlier. Those may go to the back a little bit and get some of the thoughts and ideas and concepts that he's familiar with up to the front of the list.
Is there any merit whatsoever to having something ready for Jacoby in the event that in a game of this magnitude, if Deshaun continues to struggle in a huge way, that you can go to Jacoby a little bit here and there if you need to? Is there something?
I think that's always, we always have the ability to call the game for Jacoby. That's the easy part. I don't see that happening, but that's always easy to get to.
Not want to do that if you decide not to.
That's a question for Kevin, but I think personally I'd like to see him get as many reps as he can, regardless of how it's going. We need to work through these the rust, get it completely knocked off. Feeling good about the end of the year.
Alex, you worked with Coach Taylor before. What do you remember about your time in Cincinnati, and what's he like to work with?
With Zach? Yeah, great young mind, very good with the players, really, sharp offensively, schematically, does a great job of relating to the guys. I enjoyed my time working with Zach, and Brian as well, and Coach Pitcher on that side of the ball. Really young minds down there.
Compare and contrast the way he coaches to the way Kevin coaches.
I don't want to make comparisons. Just don't want to get into that, but they're really sharp guys. That's the one thing I would say. Offensively, the way the consistency level of how they operate in day to day, some of the similarities, but don't want to get into comparisons.
One thing that we talk to people about both of them is that they both are willing to change and adjust. What have you seen from either one of them in that regard?
Well, I think all good coaches have the ability to adjust or adapt, or else you get left behind. You have to do. Put plays in for your players. You may come from a run and shoot, but all of a sudden you have great offensive line and running backs. You got to run the football. So, if you don't, you get passed by. So, all good coaches should be able to adjust and adapt, and these guys do very well.
Do you expect to have David Bell Sunday?
I'm not sure what his status is right now. Hopefully, we'll get him back out there, but hopefully that with his injury, he would be able to make it back. We're not sure at this point.
And if not, what do you do with that third receiver spot? I know Dimitri got a bunch, but he hasn't played much, before that.
Yeah, we'll have to fill that role if that's the case from the roster. Mike Woods would be another candidate to fill that role. I'm not sure where his status is at this point, but hopeful he can make it Sunday.
How much of a factor is DJ Reader being in the middle for them?
Yeah, we played him once so far in our 5 previous games. He's obviously a force inside. He's a big body. He plays extremely hard. He's got some mobility. He can get up in some range running down the line of scrimmage, and he's a guy that we've talked about as being one of their quality players on that side of the football. We've got to make sure we have an idea where he is at all times.
Bigger picture of that.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. The bigger picture on that, Alex, is just facing a team for a second time. I don't think a lot changed, but you saw him just about a month ago.
Yeah, and I think we know this team well, like we do most of our division now at this point. So, there'll be change-ups as always, and we'll have them also. But, we know the personnel really well. The scheme might change, but we know who these guys are, and they know who we are.
How much do you think it will help Deshaun to have David Njoku out there?
Anytime you can add a body like David's, a talented guy that has production, it's only going to help. Tight ends are generally close to the quarterback in proximity, so they get a lot more chances to catch the ball.
It seemed like more shotgun runs with Deshaun in there. You have the read option and that kind of thing. How does that change the kind of fundamentals of the blocking up front? Is Nick just as comfortable doing that as taking a handoff when it comes from under center?
Yeah, I think our backs are very adaptable. Gun runs, under runs, tosses, handoffs, misdirection. I think they can do it all. I don't think it has much of an effect. Some of the run blocking up front might change. Aiming points really is the biggest part of it, but it's something we did a lot of in the spring and summer, anticipating us moving more towards the gun.
Obviously, you look at the strides that Deshaun is going to be able to make in the next couple weeks, but from that one game, were you able to see an area where he maybe loosened up a little bit in those 4 quarters? Were you able to see growth in that regard?
To see him do what? I'm sorry?
Like any growth within just that one game as those quarters went on?
Yeah, I think there's always growth throughout the course of the game. Yes, I do. And I think he improved. There were plays later in the game that I thought he looked better than earlier on. I thought he was a little, it was a big deal to go what he went through, and I thought he handled it well. After getting that one under his belt, I think we'll see improvement each week moving forward. But he got better as the game went on.
Body not function properly when you have that much going on, not just physically but emotionally in a game, because it just didn't seem like mechanically his body was working correctly.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some data out there that might suggest that, but I'm not sure. I'm sure it was a lot, and I think it's past him now, so we can move forward.